And we are live. We don't have any intro music today, so we can just sing intro to compressed air and coffee with Jenny and Elvira.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness. That is perfect. So today, I think I'm going to be doing a little more talking in the beginning and then we'll swap it over because, of course, we are talking about sales, which I can talk all day about. So you're going to have to cut me off at some point. But it's finding new leads. We're super connected. It's digital age, AI, everything. We're inundated with so much
To compressed
information.
air and
Oops,
coffee.
that's me watching us live. we,
I thought it was me.
sound down, so that'll come up in a minute.
Perfect.
So it is December, which means almost everyone, especially salespeople, are reflecting on the year they just lived through or some survived through, and then also planning how they will survive and improve on the next one coming up. So I really wanted to start today's episode talking about sales and specifically in compressed air sales because this industry is kind of in an identity crisis, it feels like, and it's also at the same time in a major transition period where it's kind of stuck in some of these older ways, but also people are trying to integrate AI when we have both extremes at the same time. So we kind of need to connect that there. But before we go into that, I've also been doing lots of reflecting, and I want to address something directly, and that is the word sales. It carries so much baggage depending on the person's perspective. And this actually happened to me, I think, at the beginning of the year. We were actually in Hanover, at Hanover Messe in Germany, and I was pumped. It was my first like trip with you, meeting you, being out there.
Yes.
Um, and someone asked for my business card, and they read it and went, "Ooh, oh, that's a tough title." And like I didn't even think about it, but my title is head of sales for Direktin. Um, but you made it seem like it was a bad thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just spent, 12 years in sales. So for me, like I was a little taken back until I realized, that's from that person's perspective, which makes sense. It's if that time like was earlier in my career, a comment like that would have made me like freak out and change my title and like do a bunch of research. But as I mentioned, I've been in sales for 12 years now, 10 of those in compressed air specifically. And I can confidently say that I'm not confused or easily shaken about like who I am or what I do. So I do sales, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people think that the word sales is, the problem. It's been abused and perceived in different ways. Um, when when I think of like a sleazy salesperson, I think of the movie Matilda. So if you haven't seen it, the dad like glues on the bumper and sells it for an extreme price. So that's what maybe some people associate it with. Um, so I wanted to address that. It is an amazing um, industry to be in sales if it's done correctly and appropriately, of course. There are some people who are still in that sleazy sales zone, but they don't last long. And I think people can tell now. So I think having that view of sales in general is a little old way of thinking, kind of, and that it's taking away from people to be able to discern, and take opinions of people for themselves. So I think in 2026, maybe we can move past that a little bit as well. Um, and then something that I think ties into this as well, which I have been seeing a lot more, um, And this is something that actually made me a little uncomfortable when I was selling, because in this industry, in compressed air, there are a lot of salespeople who their titles are applications engineers, technical
Mm.
support specialists, that don't actually have an engineering background. I personally would feel very uncomfortable putting myself in that situation, especially with compressed air. You always end up talking to an engineer at some point, but always. Like nothing is going to get put in. Like when I was dealing with safety people, maintenance, even no matter what you're trying to sell into this system, you will end up speaking with an engineer. Um, and it's a very thin veil, especially when you move into the technical support, because when you go in there, they can tell, like, oh, you're here to technically support me, and very quickly the items that they're selling are the exact solution. So for me, it's kind of a very fine line, and that's okay as long as people are honest about it. Because when you walk into a plant and introduce yourself as something that you are not, as this application engineer, you start off on this complete wrong foot, in my opinion, of course. You can create a false sense of security with the customer because they're thinking you're an engineer, that you have this background, right? Engineers, I know I have family that are engineers. I talk to you all day, every
Mhm.
day, and they went to school, they learned, theories, formulas, like physics, so many things that I did not do, and that I do not feel comfortable speaking about. So that's what I mean why it creates that false sense of security for the end users. And this actually can keep the industry stuck. And in some extreme cases, which I have personally seen, if I dig through my LinkedIn DMs long enough, I can find some from when I first started selling nozzles, that it can actually put people off to new technologies in compressed air altogether. So they say, like an application engineer came in, told them this was going to work, and it didn't work because maybe they didn't take into account other things. And then so it shut something down, it messed something up. So, that shuts down that facility and keeps them
Yeah.
stagnant. Like they're like, we're not going to do that again. We had an application engineer come in. And again, this is where sales like plays a massive role through the industry. Um, so I want to make that point very clear. And of course, it's not the salesperson's fault. There's a lot, and of course, for example, I am speaking from experience. I do not have an engineering degree, but I have a decade of selling into compressed air systems. And in that time, you learn to respect the discipline and respect, and then these formulas start coming up. Um, but I can still, after 10 years, not say that I'm an application engineer, because everything that I gathered, all of the tips and tricks and my personal best practices were all anecdotal evidence. So it was stuff that I plugged in and it worked or didn't work. Like I didn't do a scientific experiment or dig deeper into it, because I just didn't have that bandwidth or the knowledge at the time, or the tools in order to do that. um, because we are very fragmented in the sales world of compressed air. So, like, I was only on this very specific end of the use. So, if my nozzle didn't work, it maybe wasn't the nozzle inherently, but it was something else. So this is kind of what I mean. So I can only go based off of anecdotal evidence, and I couldn't solve this whole solution. So with that said, I want to make that point. So I don't know, I'm not expecting people to fully come in and change their titles or opinions or anything based off of that. Um, but yeah, you learn. Sometimes you have to learn the hard way doing that by getting yourself into some sticky situations. And people think, okay, you're an engineer, you should know these basic things maybe. And then it gets you into some sticky situations if that is not true. And we're in a moment now in time where misinformation can spread faster than ever because of because of this, false sense of trust, this thin veil that I mentioned, but also now a new introduction on top of that layer is another false confidence that AI can solve all these problems. So now I can be an engineer because I have AI and I can plug everything in. And now I can do my sales job faster and have it do all these algorithms and give me magic numbers to help me sell. So now in this new age, we're just kind of stacking some bad habits on top of each other and now expediting some of those bad habits. This probably isn't what people maybe were expecting to hear this morning, moving into the new digital age, is that you also have to be very careful and use discernment when you're using some of these AI chat tools. And now with all of that and with social media, people want answers faster. They want deeper accuracy. I think there's a little bit of like blind trust because people automatically trust what ChatGPT says.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, okay, well, it said that. Obviously, it's pulling all this data from the internet, which is never wrong, uh, so I think that's another shift that's happening, and that puts even more pressure on salespeople as if they didn't like have enough pressure already to sell. So I want to tie that into what does all of this have to do with generating new business, finding new leads, coming into this next year. And salespeople, I know because I am one. So we're expected to have complex technical conversations with engineers. We're expected to show up with integrity, even if we maybe don't know all the answers. We're expected to keep pace with the market. We need to know who knows who, what's going on where, who's partnered with who, what company bought the other company now, and now they're one, and there's joint ventures. And we're also supposed to do all of this and hit sales quotas yesterday. So there's a lot of pressure there. So it's not a simple task. It's a very like narrow path that you have to navigate. Um, and all of that with how fast factories are trying to change. So there's some production sites that even I went to in the last couple of years where you could see these very, very old machines next to a brand new robot arm, and like they're working next to each other. And again, you have the extreme opposites there. And the entire system was built in the 80s and 90s, and they're expected to perform at 2026 levels. Um, and again, tying this back into the sales role, most of your time is spent on the phone in your work, maybe doing customer visits if you are one of the lucky salespeople, because I think that's where you learn the most. But the rest of the time when you're actually in sales is spent in meeting rooms with other salespeople. So now not only are we trying to handle all this stuff, you're now in a room with all the other people trying to do the same thing. So I think there's kind of a lack that maybe salespeople can spend more time with engineers. And this is something that I have been honored with this year because I get to spend direct time with Dr. Elvira Rakova. So I literally learn every time I talk to you, I learn something new every single time. It's no, really, really, it's amazing. And even just being in some of our meetings and with our other, it's not just us on our team. We actually have a team of amazing, amazing people. But I have this 10 years experience in this sales role, talking to all of these different roles within manufacturing, partnered with Elvira's, 13 years? You have field experience
Yeah.
plus PhD level engineering work in compressed air. And we've got to put those two together this year. And I think it's kind of led, even in casual conversations, we're always talking about different things, just our past. And my favorite conversation was recently when you asked, like, as a salesperson, like, Danny, what did you need? And I was like, oh my gosh, like I could go through and as salespeople, you always need something. um, because we're the ones that have to talk to the customer, and we don't have the engineer there with us. So
Yeah.
tools are like
Yeah,
all we
tools for that. Yeah.
like our tools and our own personal knowledge, which is like being in a salesperson's brain. You're you're working like my portfolio was over 400 companies, when I had left. And that's 400 companies, but then you have 5 to 10 contacts within each company, because you have the maintenance, the safety, the engineers, the plant
Mhm.
managers. So like that's thousands of people that you need to remember, and have these notes everywhere and say, okay, I had this conversation with this person, this with this person. So all of that on top of like, okay, now you have to be present in this one meeting, even though you're getting emails and like so many things. Um, so when you ask me that, and I'm like, okay, a tool that would have saved me so much time, it would save the engineers time instead of me struggling through it myself. Um, I wanted a tool that would have protected me from
Mm.
information, like that I didn't know was misinformation at the time because that's what I saw at other places, So
Mm.
again, on that anecdotal evidence, which again is no fault of the person because that's what you saw. So of course, you saw it works a certain way at a certain facility. Um, and then tool that would have made my Excel sheet. I thought I was brilliant putting this Excel sheet together where I'm like, okay, I need to scale this. So I would make my Excel sheet and say, okay, I'm constantly gathering this information, this information, this information to run this ROI report,
Support.
um,
Mhm.
to help me sell. And again, after spending so much time with you and actually seeing some of the equations that are needed in order to do even just the pressure drops, yeah, my Excel sheet can't even do that. So, but again, I would have never known that before. And it wasn't part of, my daily work or my process, but at the same time it was, because you're working in compressed air, it is your daily work, even if you don't know about it. So I'm going to wrap up what I'm saying. So this is what we're here to talk about today, because I had this conversation with you, and then you kind of gathered everything that I said and like turned it into an actual usable tool that I was like, okay, we can't go back in time, because I would have absolutely loved this and would have crushed
Mhm.
all my sales. Like I did still crush sales goals, but like this would have been like next level. Um, and it's I really believe that this is the future of generating new business in compressed air, the future of accurate technical conversations, that aren't happening. It will also build credibility in sales, and have them like, okay, wow, these salespeople that are using these things, it definitely builds trust and credibility for that person. Um, and then also actually helping these manufacturers get the right data that they need to do a full approach, even if you're only selling part of the compressed air system. Um, so our ultimate goal is to simplify the process for the end user so they can get the support they need to make a real impact on their compressed air systems. And after having these conversations, we realized that it's actually salespeople that play a massive role in making this happen. So, with that said, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yes, Tanya, I think it's yeah. I think how I perceive sales, it completely changed also for me, because in general, one person told me that I'm extremely bad in sales, and I said, okay, I admit it, I'm not a salesperson, I'm an engineer, and I don't think that it should be my task. But
Yeah.
what I think, what salespeople bring and what you bring, and you don't have to change your title and call yourself an entertainment manager, as someone was suggesting to us. So you bring the value to the customers. So you show the customer what are the opportunities exist now on the market, what are the new products. You don't have to be an engineer for that. You need to connect with engineering team, where already our engineering team comes into role. and brings value there and explains things and do things, because otherwise we cannot create this change, the wind
Mhm.
of change on the market of compressed air, and the value and also revenue for the company, if one person just does everything. You don't have to be an engineer, I don't have to be sales, or I don't have to be marketing as well as you. We have our marketing team for that.
Mhm.
And just to say that I feel that I'm a little bit, I was shocked. 2 weeks ago I was in one company, and great company, by the way, so distributors, very knowledgeable. And when I was saying them goodbye, they gave me this. It's a printed catalog I've been seeing. I would like to say I haven't seen in the years, no, but it's a printed catalog that I got also half a year ago when I was in the visit of some suppliers, a manufacturer, and uh, all the time the companies at the end of the meeting, they would give me the catalog, printed catalog of their products. I don't have anything against, rather than just like the paper printing and so on, and impact. But I just want to say that, uh, and I don't want to be like an ageist person here, but unfortunately I will. I'm sorry. So as an engineer, I'm very straightforward. Uh, the thing is that for for me as an engineer, it is hard to evaluate this catalog. For me, in the age, I'm 36, so I was, and this is kind of like an age of energy managers, engineers in the facilities. You have, of course, 50 plus. So we have a different behavioral change for buying things. So, for example, for my age and how I buy things, I usually buy them online. I'm not used to I go to the shops, maybe just, but it also for me, it's overwhelming for me.
Mhm.
The choice that we have nowadays, it's crazy. And once I enter the shop, it gets overwhelming. I go there just maybe once a month just to see something like happening, like
Mhm.
once I have a coffee on the main street of the city. But the thing is that when I got this printed catalog, it's it's such a waste of time for the engineer to understand every single parameter there. You
Mhm.
need to be so experienced in that. And in the age of the, when you open, as you said before, ChatGPT, Gemini, or something else to ask the questions, it feels like so weird. It feels like I don't know, like I had like this thing in my brain that I felt like that, oh my God, I need to think now, but for what actually, I don't know. And and this is what I think it's, the compressed air industry need to a little bit rethink how things are going to be bought in the next years,
Mhm.
because I understand for that, first of all, for the sales it's extremely important to have a relationship. It's actually the personal meetings, the Hanover Messe will be still important, some gathering meetings, offline conference, because we are all humans and we need this human connection. And it's I think it is essential, and
Mhm.
that this is maybe will be even an opposite, like more required for that.
Yes.
But to choose the product, to understand the baseline of the facility, to understand the opportunities, and then give it to engineers that they don't struggle for another 20 days understanding what is happening and losing into the things. We all need tools. And we been developing, let's say, we call it auditor sales tool. So it's something that can help suppliers to go into the facility and show the benefit of their product, because it's so fragmented, the everything. And I just want to show you just a sneak peek of the development that we have. And let me go like that. And this is basically, imagine that as an auditor or as a salesperson, you sell piping, or you sell compressors, or you sell something else, blowing guns, right? Pneumatic cylinders. So you need to know still the information about the compressor room that you have, and you still need to understand the boundaries, the parameters of the facility. But you don't want to go simulation software, because as a salesperson you actually don't have to understand what
Mhm.
is happening on this engineering level.
Mhm.
And imagine that you just go and you start with the compressor room, and you simply ask your customer how many hours it's operating, what are the electricity cost, what are the like temperatures, where are you basically. So this probably you know,
Yeah.
and then you collect the data about the compressor room. That it's extremely easy to collect. You can take a photo and make this read, or you can just put it here. And let's say we have I know a certain
Oh, if you
compressor.
are you sharing a screen? I can't
Oh
see.
yes, you don't see the screen now. Wait a second. Let me go once again. I'm sharing my screen. Do you see it?
No. I think you have to select at the
No?
top. At the top, there should be the main, like a picture,
Let's try once again and I'll go to share screen.
and then you have to put it live. I forget what it's called. You have to put it online. So it'll
Oh,
remove us. There we go.
do you see it now? Do you see the software? The software?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. Yes. So, and then basically, so you go there and you just ask some operational data, you ask some compressor data, you see, and you don't have to understand
Hmm.
the physics of that, and just simply to see what do you have. And so, and it will give you already the information about the, for example, in compressor room, about the specific
Hmm.
power, about emissions, about, and give you also an opportunity to find products not through the digital catalogs, but just simply see the product of the, for example, here of the compressor, what would be possible savings here, how, what are the maybe estimation cost of there. You can see also the information about the product, the digital passport, like the new
Hmm.
standards that has been developing here also in I think it's Europe, maybe it's international. But the main thing is that you don't open the printed catalogs, or you don't go into the Excel, so you already see the
Yeah.
recommendation for that. And then basically just go step by step, and maybe you find that there is a ring pipeline, and there is information about the at least the material, and you already see the possible upgrades here. And here,
Hmm.
for example, there is a possible upgrade for the aluminum pipe system. So this is like from air pipe from our partners that are inside the marketplace,
Hmm.
and or for example from dryers or for filters and so on. And you already can then isolate it, like, add it to the actions. The same thing. Then you understand the demand profiles, and you find, for example, few let's say few open nozzles there,
Hmm.
and here, for example, you sell nozzles. Okay, so you don't sell the piping or anything else, so you sell nozzles, but you already see that the problem in the piping can actually cost in something here. So you need also to pay attention for that. And then
Hmm.
here you see already the suggestions on how it can be optimized, and which products you can also choose there. I go here very fast, but just to give a flavor, is that you
Hmm.
don't need to be an engineer for that. And
Yes.
if, for example, you see that there is a leak, and you don't even measure yet leak, but
Hmm.
for example, you see that there is estimation of that, and you can give already the customer understanding of how much it can cost per year. So, and basically after this, you already can have an identified the opportunities for the entire system. So
Hmm.
as well as understanding what you actually can buy, you can ask, go into the already. As if you, for example, an auditor, you simply just get the bill of material out of this,
Hmm.
to have an ROI calculations. And for example, or if you are selling certain components, and again, selling is, as I think, as a real salesperson, you always need to bring an additional value to your customer.
Yes, absolutely.
rather than getting them overwhelmed and trying to sell a compressor instead of a compressor that already works fine. So those kind of things. And as you said, there are different salespeople in general. There are different people in the world, but we work with the good ones.
Yeah.
So and the thing is that you can bring an additional value. Yes, it's not an engineering project yet.
Mhm.
It's not completely everything aligned and optimized. You of course can go into the uh, then you go to the engineers, then you go, for example, into the EasyCAS, and you do the full analysis of the systems, because by changing one component you can change another component.
Mhm.
And then after this, at least the customer understands what are the possibilities, and after that you already can have a full ROI analysis of that. So if, for example, we here, after going into the EasyCast report, so because we can put then this bill of material that auditor or the salesperson just collected
Mhm.
as as a first understanding, like just as a first baseline assessment,
Mhm.
what could be done there, because it's obviously you cannot have open blow, and it's obviously you need to remove the leaks. And then already collecting this data, it can be transferred then to the engineers, and engineers create
Mhm.
the full analysis based on the collected data, on the measured data that is already there. So, of course, there is already more profound, I would say,
Mhm.
um, profound way of understanding, right? So, which it's not just like the baseline assessment. And here already you can have all this information about the annual cost. For example, you did some analysis before and after, and you have energy, CO2, and the most important, what you have, it's all the issues identified.
Mhm.
And then you can add it into the actions. And after adding it to the actions, you can connect it then to, let me see, for example, leak. Okay. Then you can create an action. And
Mhm.
here, basically, after this, once you have it, you can calculate the ROI by also connecting the marketplace, connecting the auditor tool, connecting the more profound engineering calculation. You can have an ROI showing, look, if you do everything here and you buy my components here, and of course, not just that, but you improve actually the entire system and go and
Mhm.
speak also with other subject matter experts, you can have a significant savings there.
Mhm.
And this is before installing any sophisticated monitoring systems that
Right.
you actually need to install after you do the audit, or after you, because it will be like it's very often it just doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
It makes sense to start at a certain point, but again, it's a topic of another compressed air at all. But what I'm just trying to say, that it's extremely important to make this process very smooth for the customer.
Mhm.
Like, one thing is that you just give him a catalog, you open the catalog, and then you show, look, my blowing gun saves you 50%, but you need to calculate the pressure levels. You need to understand if the piping is fine, if the filters is fine, if there is like a correct settings there on the regulator. So there are so many things that it is impossible to understand everything if you're just selling just like a blowing gun, and the catalog will show you only at the, for example, 4 bar or 4.5 bar. But it's insane. Like you have completely different pressure levels in the facilities, and I can of course go forever about that. But it's important to bring value. And as an engineer, I also communicate with salespeople. And what the first thing, that I'm not afraid of the title of sales. I'm just looking at the things, how it is easier for me to buy things. If I need to go through 50 pages of the catalog only of one cylinder drive, yeah, sometimes maybe it's fine when I drink coffee, but even nowadays, like, no thanks. But we need to think about the behavioral changes that are coming now with AI, and with how people are buying things. The habits are becoming different.
Yes.
Decision makers are also becoming different age people that
Mhm.
have also different behavioral changes. And very often, I mean, we spoke with you, like with a few suppliers also, and like I ask them, how do you find leads? because I'm curious about this all the time. Like, how do you find leads? How do you find new customers? And like, yeah, some years ago we were putting the advertisement in the like printed magazine, like not even magazine, like the newspaper, like city newspaper, and it worked 50 years ago, right? Because this is was the behavioral change. In the morning, every person wakes up,
Mhm.
gets a coffee, and go to the kiosk to buy the newspaper. So nowadays things are different. The advertisement is different, and
Mhm.
how we think about our time is different. So and this is, I think, it's extremely important to understand. Oh wow, well, it's already we're going
Yes.
about the time, but I think it's a very like I think it's a very deep topic in general, and bringing the value to the customer, connecting to engineers, making choice easier.
Mhm.
I think this is actually what the good sales person does.
Yes.
Understanding where the spots and so on. And I think in general, what is also I find fascinating. This is my last thought, but it's fascinating for me. Fascinating. I get also angry about that, but the idea of a marketplace, and for example in Direktin, what we're doing, we're having the tools, different tools for auditors, for engineers, right? So very soon you will see the full ecosystem launch, so it's going to be super exciting where all the tools will be together. But marketplace, you all use marketplace, right? Like you all also order things on Amazon and so
Yeah.
on. So we are not promoting. If we have one partner there in the marketplace, it's usually an amazing company who actually realized that the behavior is changing of buying things, and they want to be the first adopter for the marketplace. And I find it's fascinating that there are no smart marketplaces in general in industry. So I see also other industries, and to find something, yeah, you can find the website with the catalogs,
Yes.
but you don't find something calculators, tools, like understanding how it fits your system, because our system are also extremely like complex. So
Mhm.
marketplace doesn't mean that it will propose you all the time this partner. Marketplace is something where you can go plug and place component, understand how things work. Yes, we
Mhm.
get subscription fee for that, but this is how usually places work. You
Mhm.
can have a generic components, but you also have the parts that are inside there.
Yes.
It is open to everyone, so it's not exclusive. There is not someone pays extra to be like seen,
Mhm.
or pays less. So no one of these partners actually, because I see that people write me like, you're not brand neutral anymore. This is how marketplace works. So, and I really recommend people from compressed air industry, especially for certain that from whom we get in the comments, this is how it works.
Yes.
We didn't sell shares of Direktin technologies to any of those companies. So we don't belong. 80% of Direktin is our core team, and 20% are it's a US foundation. Companies that own you, it's completely different. You cannot be brand neutral there. But if it is a marketplace, 1 year you have subscription from that company, 1 year you don't have. So
Mhm.
it's a very different. And I find it's fascinating that a lot of people don't get it, because I think it's these things of changing the behavior. So we're still like staying in the printed catalog era. So, and whenever we put a new partner in our system and promote it on the LinkedIn, the next message I get, I thought you were brand neutral. It's fine. So,
Yeah.
but yes, so we didn't sell our soul to any of our partners. So they are partners that saw an opportunity
Yes.
of being on the marketplace in the ecosystem, where
Mhm.
you actually, once auditor goes into the facility, he doesn't have just one company, another component, or third component. It
Mhm.
has in the future, and this is our goal, is to have all the components. So engineers have really don't struggle in the designing of the system, or energy managers, the first thing. And the second thing, the project managers happening way faster, and it finally the energy savings will happen. Just finally, not just the sake of the selling the software, but we really want to see how how help facilities, how help the world to use rationally energy, because it's so misused in compressed air, and it's a crazy opportunity now to reduce in general the impact.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm done.
No, this one needed to be extra long, so we had people stay through the whole thing, so thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
If you are interested, you guys always know where to find us. You can also email us at info at direktin.com, and one of our team members will be there and we will definitely respond. But we're open to these conversations, and we we don't shy away from even some of the more difficult conversations. Just because, again, we know what our goal is, we know who we're trying to help ultimately, and we're not planning on losing sight of that. But we're hoping that more and more people come with us in making this bigger change that's really bigger than any one company, if you think about it. So we will end with that. And thank you guys very much for listening.
Thank you, and enjoy your day and evening. Goodbye.
Bye.